Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our weekly office hours. My name is George Soto, one of the co-founders here at Asimule, always joined by my co-founder and CEO, Justin Dorfman. And today, there should be a drum roll here, Craig.
No.
Um, we got to figure that out. But today, for everyone out there, we are joined by the one and only Craig Rosenberg, who is the funaholic. If you are not aware of him, you are really missing out and have been living on the rock for the last 20 years. And what's unique is that today we're going to dive into the future of GTM in this age of AI. Everyone's trying to figure it out. A lot of us have been building tools within the AI space, and a lot of us have been using these tools. And I think that the promise of AI, and we're going to unpack this a little bit today, is pretty promising and pretty exciting for the folks out there. Go ahead and add your comments, questions, feedback to the comments section here. You're probably watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, and we'll go ahead and get to those questions right away. But either way, we'll have a little section towards the end. We like to make these conversations pretty interactive, so we'll be sure to actually dive in there. So, without further ado, just real quick, Justin, maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about the topics, and then followed by Craig to do a quick introduction. Even though everybody knows you, Craig, and
Not anymore. Wait, can I just say that was the nicest intro. I did an event in New York, RevFest, and Jen Igartua was it was her company, and that she did this amazing intro like you, and like five people clapped. I'm like, bro, like I have lost my riz, Justin. I mean, I need that back, bro. So
I
like, it's great to be here, huh? Yeah, sorry, I know you want to, but I just had to. I'm like sitting there, I was about to cry on your intro, and I'm going, but everyone's on the call going, who? Like, I have no idea who this dude is.
not at all, not at all, and that may be dating us a little bit. Then.
A lot of it, I guess, because yeah,
Well,
I mean,
I'll never forget the person that you are. Because like, yes, you're an expert, and yes, you've helped countless organizations really crush their numbers and set up, go to market. And yeah, no introduction needed. See, we got thanks, Brett. Out there in the
oh, we got Brett. Yeah, that's my guy, man. I love
yeah,
that.
thanks, Brett. You're right. Um, but I just wanted to say, like, the person you are, yes, you've invented categories. I mean, ABM, ABX. I didn't hear anyone talk about ABX, account based everything, right? Outside of you or before you, but you're an incredible human being. I'll never forget. We were in the middle of COVID, and it was tough. I know, like, it was tough for a lot of people. We were living through this really bizarre time, right?
Yeah.
And I was also going through a lot of career. As an entrepreneur, you're constantly going through career stuff, crises, right? And I called you up. I was really in a tough spot, like, just spiritually, and you were so calm, and you were just like, I don't know if you remember that conversation, but I'll never forget that. And so, for everyone, Craig is not only an incredible mind and go to market and business, but he's an incredible human being. And I'll stop there, but just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, let's stop the show. That was that. I mean, like, I just want that. Yeah, I'm gonna take that and take that clip. Thanks, George. I do remember that call. But it's funny when I don't keep score. I just feel like that's how those are relationships, and
Yeah.
there's ups and downs. And it's crazy because I was just talking to Justin about how my kids are being raised on TikTok and Instagram, and I'm like, that you have these things you have to guard against. One of them is like, people don't post bad things. And like, it's like, dude, like, that, light, everything's about no disappointment. And then all of a sudden it's like, they play baseball, for example. It's like, oh no, dude, now there's only I mean, like, it's going to keep going, but you have to deal with disappointment. And like, but you don't see it. And it's like, that's part of life. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm glad I had that effect on you. This was good to hear. Okay, now that we've taken the show to talk about this, back to you, Justin and George. So sorry.
No, I think George mentioned Funaholic. I think I
Uh-huh.
came across you the first time at Topo. Actually, I
Yeah.
was a first time SDR leader. I had been a founding salesperson, and then was given the task of building out a sales development team, and was trying to learn everything I could about the practice. How do I build out this team? Like, who do I hire? How do I segment the roles? What are the plays that I need to run and all these things? And I came across a Topo event where you had experts talking about the topic and really helped me build the playbook. And I feel like sort of diving into the topic of today, that playbook that I learned is probably out the window at this point, right? Like, I mean, it lived its time like for the last decade or so.
Mhm.
But if any of these roles, and we'll go into all the different GTM roles and how they're being affected by AI, but if any of them was sort of like first hit or first uh, disrupted, I would say SDR was probably one of those roles. So, diving into our topic today, I'd love to hear your perspective on, what you're seeing, especially when it comes to like AI SDRs. Now I'm hearing about AI AEs as well. What's hype, what's real, how are these roles changing? And, we go back to what George just said about his relationship with you and like the human element of relationships. What are things that like we
Yeah.
can keep a hold of as humans in our roles, right? Especially if you're an SDR or AE listening out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, well, I knew you guys were going to want to talk about that. Um, well, first, just one thing I think. So as we talk about my age and or let's just say battle tested through the years, um, look, frankly, the SDRs during the first sales tech boom were the ones who were most avant-garde in terms of disruption that came from the sales engagement platforms, right?
Mhm.
They sort of they broke through. So like you ready for this? I did SDR consulting from 2000 to 2005. Many people listening were like in elementary school. I worked for a guy named Stu Silverman, who was like the master. He had built SDR teams at like Sun Microsystems. Like, yeah, you guys might not even know these companies. Cisco, did a little bit at Oracle. Like he was like the guru at the time. And what I tell him, by the way, if your name's Stu Silverman, you have to be a guru. It doesn't matter what. Like there's nothing like you can be a diet guru, whatever. Like it's just too good of a name. And I worked with a woman named Christina McMillan, who I still work with today, who was with me at Topo. And we joked the other day about how we basically were able to run the sales. It was called Sales Ramp. We were able to run that playbook up until 2020. That's
Wow.
20 years. But the tools accelerated things, and so to your point, like things are changing. So we'll talk about AI in a sec, because one of the difference between this first sales tech boom, which was run by the sales engagement platforms, and even things like Zoom Info, DiscoverWork, those things, they sort of disrupted many parts of what we used to do on the SDR side. And now we don't have many answers. That's why you want to talk about this. It's really interesting times. Like SDRs led last time, and now SDRs are in flux. That's why you guys want to talk about it, and we should talk about it, and you guys should chime in too, because we have this sort of seismic, like this is like an earthquake. This is crazy because buyer behavior um, changed at the same time that we are like creating tens of thousands of companies every month, going after the same types of people with communication weapons of mass destruction. And what did that create over the last couple of years? Like falling effectiveness rates. And now people are finally doing the math on the SDRs and going, well, the math doesn't work. So I just want to lead in with that. And I do want to lead in with one other thing that's really hard is when you have, like, I know you guys are also going to want to talk about efficient growth. The issue with pipeline is that figuring it out as a startup or anywhere, Like if you're, it costs money because you are going to fail. And it's going to be inefficient until you figure out the efficiency. Now everyone's trying to be efficient to solve a problem that's very hard. And that is where we're at right now. And that makes things even more tough. So anyway, I just listed a bunch of stuff there that I probably talked a lot and didn't, it was all contextual. On the AI SDRs, here's what I think. So one is we haven't figured it out yet. The value, it's a classic tech market where the value prop far outran the actual execution. And so the value prop makes a ton of sense. And I still really like the idea, and we're going to get there. But right now we're sort of still figuring it out. So a couple things I know. One is we're trying to solve the hardest problem with the AI SDR. And I think we should start with the mundane, like inbound and volume. When you have significant volume, in my opinion, why wouldn't you use an AI SDR? And that could be inbound volume. It could be you work at Yelp and you got to hit hundreds of thousands of restaurants or whatever. Like that is an AI SDR use case in a heartbeat. Like you'll never get the AI ROI with humans there. The inbound is the same thing. We basically paid young folks to come in and go through leads, figure out who's who, what's what, and then send a templated email. That AI SDRs will do better, or maybe the same, but not necessarily. Okay, so those two use cases are, in my opinion, from the AI SDR world, they make total sense right now. The other one, though, is the enablement and outbound. So I don't think we're there yet on full AI SDR outbound, but I do think it's criminal to not arm them with AI to be able to do better stuff. So you said human like 4 times, Justin. So I know we want to weave that in, and I think we have to on outbound, especially complex outbound. But so does that mean all human? No, definitely not, because you will fail if you're not using AI in order to enable those folks. It's actually really bad. So I'll give you a couple examples. So one is AI for account. The account research capabilities of today are extraordinary, not ordinary. You ever hear Mike Tyson at the press conference? He says, I'm not ordinary, I'm extraordinary. And that is, I do it, you do it. Like anybody who has gotten like AI, basic AI, like we're all doing. Like I getting ready for a pitch call with a firm trying to raise money, and like I get to go look. I know so much more going into the call. It's so quickly, it's incredible. That's one. Two is obviously data, like that can be fed to the workflows that bog people down, figuring out who to call and and who they are, learning more about them. So you have the account research, B, contact research. These things are all powerful tools in order to do proper outbound. And then the third one for me, I want things to give me ideas on what to write. I do. Like it makes me faster. It's so funny because we'll call it 2000. Let's see, let's have some fun. 2000 and what year is this? 2016. It was like I'm out there on the road. I look back now, I'm like, what an ivory tower, piece of shit. Like I'm out there going, you got to write the most amazing message. And we had this message that this woman who became one of the best SDR leaders, sales leaders, her name's Emerald Maravilla. She was with Twilio, and she did this email to Howard Schultz at Starbucks that got a meeting at Starbucks. And I showed that thing to everybody. You know how long it took her to get that email together? 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, so everyone needs to go do that. Like, nobody can do it. I mean, you can't send one email every 3 days. And but now what she did on that email, which was basically, I'll give you the gist. She said, I know you're trying to do these 4 things. I have ideas for you on how you might do it. And she tackled all four. She built it with the product managers, and it was a longer email than I think most people do. And she saw the forward. He CC'd her on, said, let's take this meeting and go learn more. You can do that now, right? You know, AI, the tools that are out there can help you go come up with ideas that you might put down on paper. So so I'll just recap. Parts of the SDR game, I think, are AI SDR. Yeah, thank you, Brett. That is exactly right. Amazing, but doesn't scale. And now we can scale that. We can scale that human. We can scale the humans on that one. We still are going to need humans for outbound because it just doesn't. Well, frankly, I don't know that the numbers are necessarily there for that. So I really like that enables. So the AI SDR world, I think we should lift the sort of promise. I mean, not the promise of it, how we categorize it, and it's going to cover everything that happens in the sort of SDR realm, right? But it's not going to all be the same thing. It depends. You know, it depends. And I think volume, right, and necessity of customization, those things matter. Okay, so there's that. So if you want to know, in my opinion, on the human side, now the most important thing we do is we teach young SDRs business.
Yep.
Because the AI will feed you these things, but if you don't, I look back and I didn't understand business until I was 32. And even then, I'm still learning today. So like, and by the way, even MBAs, you come out, you still don't really understand business. And so like, you know, what are you going to do about it? You know, it's like, I take the vertical SaaS folks, you know, they have this hidden advantage. It's not even hidden. They have an advantage. Their market is baked into they're built something for a market. But it's like, if you're selling to construction, you got to put these guys on site. You got to have them talk to, you know, GMs of construction companies, put on the hard hat, get out there. Those types of things are like what we need now, so that when the AI feeds me and I'm the human last touch, I understand what I'm looking at. And that's a little different, right? It's actually going to help them in their career more than anything else, right? It's going to accelerate them to be good AEs. Because you asked about the AI AE, which we can talk about in a sec. I'm going to stop. Go. What do you think of what I just said? Oh,
no,
wait, hold on.
Justin,
I have one thing to say. I'm still crystallizing my POV on this, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Go.
No, I think you're spot on. You know, you were sort of touching into something at the end of your perspective that I think I've been thinking about a lot, right? So it totally makes sense. Like the first thing I think about with SDRs is the traditional inbound role is gone, right? You know, this idea of having to jump on a call with somebody who's going to grill you with a bunch of questions in order to qualify you in to be able to then talk to an AE and see the product and all that stuff from both a buyer behavior perspective on what buyers want when they're evaluating solutions, and from a technology and ROI perspective, you know, a full-time employee and what you're paying them versus an AI tool. I think that role is no longer, right? In terms of the outbound, that's where I think the human plus technology mix now becomes a super powerhouse. But the question that I was going to ask you as a follow-up was the inbound role in my, maybe this is not the way everybody thinks about this, but this is the way I used to think about it when I was managing an SDR team. Is it's sort of a career progression. You go from starting at an inbound role, and that's really where you learn the ropes. You get comfortable talking to people, you know, asking the questions in the script, but starting to sprinkle in and, you know, spreading your wings, pitching a little bit. You kind of use that to get your feet wet. Then you progress into an outbound role where you're now more comfortable because of the experience you've had inbound. And then eventually maybe you move on to an AE role, or if you want to pivot into marketing or CS, you can do that as well. But I've always felt the inbound role was like a critical role for somebody to get those building blocks, right? That would prepare them for the next step. So where does that go is one of the big questions I've been starting to think about. And it's not the SDR role is what I think about. I think about this in every function of every, accounting, lawyers, like, there's these junior roles that you need to get the reps in to prep yourself. But
Yeah.
specifically to I wonder if you have a perspective on that, talking about the human side. How do we prepare our future generations for the workforce when a lot of these entry-level roles become obsolete?
Yeah, dude. That's I'm not going to go the rabbit hole going looking up what the data says, but the data says across the board that the entry level roles are the ones getting hit. And that's brutal. But on the other hand, we're trying to run a business. So but yeah, look, the SDR, the inbound SDR is that gateway into the company is like, I mean, it's clear the robots should run that. And it's clear that that will hurt, that sort of way in the door. I mean, how many folks do we see who now have nice houses in Palo Alto who started as inbound SDRs to get into these companies? I don't know the answer there yet, to be honest with you, because we're going to see it across the board, right? We're going to see it at Bain. We're going to see it at Goldman Sachs. Like the ability to get a job coming out of college is going to change, right? Now, that said, I mean, like Scott Albro, my old CEO business partner, his son is sort of broke into SDR land and did it outbound. Now, what did he do beforehand? He did outbound for his dad. He learned everything. He came in like he understood these things. By the way, that kid's writing some of the best messages of all time. He does like a combo of AI and he'll call people and find out more about the company. I mean, he's just, I should write a thing on him, but like he learned it by, taking on a really tough job, sort of helping his dad doing some outbound stuff. And that allowed him to do it. You are going to enter through outbound now.
Yeah.
And that, I think the companies, generally we sort of freak out. I know you're not freaking out, Justin, but I'm just using that term. But they figure it out, and it's like, okay, so like, how do we get folks started on outbound? I'll just tell you this: like in 30 years ago, an AE who just started would start with a blank book of business and have to go build it themselves. So like that has happened before. It's just we'll have to go back to that. The other thing is like you talked about AI SDRs. There's another level, which is like there was another entryway into these companies, which was like VSMB, like very small SMB sales, like was your way to do it. And like that has the potential for the AI AE to take that one too, just because it's the economics of having a person go sell, menus to restaurants is going to get tough. And so the problem's going to be across the board. Folks are going to have to enter through a fairly big jump. But like I said, people that are smart figure that out. And we have enablement tools now that we've never had before. You guys might know a little bit about that, right? Like, and I don't want to jump into enablement until you guys are ready, but like that's where we have to solve for this, because we're going to have really bright young folks that have incredible future in the company that we're going to have to start in a slightly bigger jump than we did before. That's just reality. It's just the game. The game's the game, as they said in The Wire.
Well, it's interesting because even outbound, now I understand that there are some laws. I this is just hearsay. I don't know this to be true, but I did hear like that there's some laws around having AI conducting cold calls, right?
Right.
And then you have to like mention that it's an AI and so on. But I have a buddy of mine, actually, the guys over from Ringlead, which ended up going over to.
Oh yeah, those guys. I remember those dudes. Like, yeah.
Yeah. was chatting with John, I don't know, a couple months ago, and he's like, dude, check this out. So I hear this conversation that sounds like a human female doing a cold call to a human buyer, and it was like it was impressive. It was like your stud, amazing cold caller that was unaffected by any of the emotional stuff, like kind of like the how rough people get sometimes with when you call them on the phone and it's a cold call, and just navigating it the whole nine, ends up booking the call. And so I hear the whole thing, and he goes, that's an AI, man. I got this thing set up. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. If that's what's here, like that is, it was really, really sharp. I had no idea it was an AI. And again, unemotional, unaffected, was just kept, kept going at it, asking for the call, kept, kind of using all the best practices we know, right? They say this, you do this, or are you sure? You know what I mean? And all that. So it was pretty interesting. I don't know how far it gets. I understand that there's like some legalities around that, but it was really impressive. So I'm really curious to see how it evolves too.
Yeah.
I think that you talk about the last mile stuff. I am unsure how the relationship building and like really being the expert in the room based on variables that are showing up in real time, will how much of that will be powered in 10 years will be completely, probably, right? Or whatever year, 20, even though like humans might revolt and go, no, anyways.
Yeah.
um so yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, finish. I'm just reacting.
Yeah, no, I'm just unsure on that piece. And I think I will say this: I do believe that it is like the lazy coasting AEs who are just cruising, taking orders, like that stuff's, if you if you're just doing table stake stuff, like I can see how that's just, you're in trouble, right? You're out of
Yeah,
production.
that's right. Like the easy that so one of the sort of adjustments that the market is making to the AI SDR, AI AE type stuff is like the value prop was so good that we took on the hardest stuff, when in reality the best use case today is the mundane easy stuff, right? So like as you said, where will the humans fit in? At least right now, we're going to need them, and let's just talk about why. But before I do, I just want to go over a couple things. So the other, and well, actually, before we go there, on reaction to one of the only things that will stop AI will be legislation. And so that'll be interesting, like, sort of protecting that, hopefully protecting the consumer, but in reality, probably protecting jobs. But so a couple things that go along with my initial rant. Like one is like channels. The channels thing is really interesting here, because the other thing we did with a lot of the email tools was we broke email in terms of a channel. And so like as you're trying to solve the prospecting SDR problem, you got to look at a couple things. So one is a very hard fix that is the most important fix is who, right? Everyone. So you talked about my experience with ABM. If you took one thing from it, it's like targeting matters. If you're supposed to talk to someone because your product is the fit for their use case, then that's the first start. Because what ruined it was downloading everyone and sending emails to people that had zero interest or need for what you were trying to do in the first place. So like one is like, you already see this today, like the targeting tools are doing really well. Like, Clay is like the toast of the town, but even though, the ones that have been around for a while, the Zoom Infos, Demand Base, et cetera, there's just an effort to decide who you're going to go after. And so I mentioned ABM because I just did a show and so it was like, ABM's dead. I'm like, no, dude, it's actually embedded in what we do. The whole point was, why are we spending time on folks that we shouldn't? it's not just our efficiency, it's theirs. Like if you're going to the right people that you should be talking to, that's step one. Step two is, well, how do we get the channels to work? So I'll give you a couple of things. Like in tech, like LinkedIn is working really well, right? If your market has phone numbers, you just mentioned phone, like the stories now, like you get a Titan X. Have you guys seen that? Like where it basically looks to see who's more likely to answer the phone, and you use a tool like we invested in Reggie. They have, you call the right people, you spend 2 hours with them, you get 6 connects. I don't believe today if you're calling into Citibank trying to get your biggest deal, you want the robot to do it yet, right? You would still want the human, but like you could see, like we make good decisions on channels and how we manage that and enable really good conversations. Those two sort of making the right decisions on how you use the channels against the right types of people, that still is the ticket. Then you can figure out tech. And the third thing is, like, there is proof today that, like, if you're targeting the right people, you're targeting the right message, even with semi custom stuff where it's just relevant to their market or whatever, you're still going to get results, right? Like if you AI is not going to solve your SDR problem. You have to solve your SDR problem first, and that's still fundamental. Who, how, and what to say, right? Those three things we have to. The AI can help you go do that, but those things are sort of core. And why am I bringing this up now? Because you triggered me on the phone call thing. Like, there's a bunch of people that fired their SDRs. And if you don't do, for any kind of prospecting, those three things, right? Figuring out who the market is and who you should be talking to, how you're going to reach out to them, and what you're going to say to them, then you're going to fail no matter what, right? But that's like, when I still sort of talk to you, that is the old playbook, Justin, a little bit. Like we do things a little bit differently, but like you sort of put that in play with the right machinery, then you can still be really successful. So sorry, that wasn't a perfect add-on to what George said, but when he was talking about the phone, I've been really intrigued by this. And the reason is because I love stories where people are zigging relentlessly and someone zags, and like finding that place where you can actually get some mileage, that kind of stuff is really interesting to me. And it also will help as we make AEs prospect again, which is another conversation. So anyway, sorry, that was important. I had to say
No,
that.
I like that, and actually, I want to sort of unpack that a little bit. So that's a really interesting use case for AI that I wasn't familiar with. Really helping you with the targeting and like who's going to answer, likelihood, and all that stuff. We've talked about sort of maybe the more obvious use cases, like answering the inbound inquiries, or all the great research that you can do now at your fingertips as well. The tools that we can give these sales reps, broadening out to like broader GTM, so sales,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
marketing,
let's do
and
it.
even customer success. What are some of your favorite use cases that you're seeing right now when it comes to AI? Some of the tools that are like really have caught your attention, or playbooks that have really caught your attention.
Look at you. I love this. Although I have, there's political, can I give you guys, we have some data coming out soon. I hope
Oh
you
yeah,
guys
love to see the data.
It's been a long time for me. I'm getting used to it. So we just, with Benchmark it, we surveyed like 200 plus, call it a little more than that, go-to-market leaders, figuring out kind of, how they're using go-to-market AI, with one caveat that we learned in go-to-market AI. The game is changing so fast that whatever you learn today will change tomorrow. It's pretty crazy. But we saw this even last year when we started to do mini surveys, that marketing actually took to AI, frankly, more regularly than the other functions. So like when we looked at it, we said, well, who's using AI regularly? 81% of marketers said they are, 63% of SDR, 62% of sales, and 42% customer success. So I'll just go through unpack that for a minute. So one is customer success, those poor folks. We've been doing this forever. Like back then, I remember when everyone was getting automated and they're like, well, you can have Gainsight. That's about it. It's like, whoa, like this happening again. It's like, my team were looking at the data. They're like, God, CS is behind. I'm like, dude, it's because they are, they're always last. It's not their fault. It's how they're sort of considered in the organization. But I thought marketing was really interesting, that they jumped in first. So, so that let's just start with that, and then let's go through some of the ways they're using it. By the way, one thing that when we looked at blockers, like why you're not adopting AI, the number one thing was lack of knowledge, and it was 54%. 26% was no prior experience. I think those are roughly the same thing. So that's like, that's almost what, my math is terrible, 90%. It's like, this is if there's an education problem here, that we can talk about how people are solving that. So when we looked at impact, so like what's sort of working for these folks? So one is, I think the big thing we learned on the AI side is that this is about productivity. So like, 92% of marketing teams said that they've seen productivity impact. 76% of sales development teams, 87% of sales teams. You guys live in this game, right? The productivity is huge. And if people are actually listening to the show, they'll probably bring up the New York Times no ROI thing, which we can talk about in a minute. But it's partly because we don't productivity is a huge lift, but we don't look at it that right. When we think of ROI, we think of different things. So when we look at, if you take productivity as the number one thing, then what's happening out there in terms of use cases isn't as glamorous as we'd like it to be, right? Because productivity stuff, like a guy like, Justin and George, who are both like, founders, doing everything from a technology perspective, these use cases are stuff you guys use. So like marketing productivity, 97% are using it to draft messaging, 73% using it to do market research, right? And yeah, I agree with Brett. By the way, Brett's really smart, and so I'm glad he's jumping in. We've had this conversation actually with Brett in a little group. This was like last year in like October, so almost a year ago. Sales development productivity, 90% using it for drafting outreach, 87% account research, 77% for enriching lead data. See, these things, what we know the game, these are huge if you've tried it. Sales productivity is 88% account research, 85% drafting outreach, 84% enriching lead data. So very similar to SDR. So like, look, the game right now is in productivity. The New York Times article on ROI will happen when we lift real metrics. That I don't believe we've seen yet. What we've probably seen is for some of these startups that are coming up fast and their ARR, revenue per employee, is just extraordinary. That's probably one of the numbers we should track. But like, people aren't going to say ROI until we improve conversion, win rates. Like we looked at go-to-market information. Win rates are, if you're selling AI, are 7% less than that of folks selling non-AI. Like, it's actually, until we lift those types of numbers, then like folks aren't going to say that they have ROI. To me, I'm like, embrace the productivity gain. Like, let's just start there, right? And so I know that wasn't your question because you want me to dazzle you, but actually I think it's really important for us to just start with productivity and the things that are very doable and the things that bogged us down from doing the right things. Phase two of like, you know, go-to-market AI ROI really comes, like I said, conversion will be everything, right? And when we looked at folks that did AI-powered campaign analysis or lead scoring, and you know, many of them, they were 3 times more likely to be seeing, you know, benefit or impact on the bottom, you know, on conversion rates as those that didn't, right? So we're sort of entering into phase 2. Win rates, like on sales side, I think, you know, look, you guys talk to more people on this every day. There's low-hanging fruit here, but it's hard, right? So, you know, things like real-time coaching, and, you know, real-time sort of delivery of content and those things, those are clear value props. You guys live in this world that we're sort of still figuring out how we're going to do it and how we integrate the humans. And when we do, um, you know, if we done right, if the company that's executing that has, you know, all the factors still have to come into play, product market fit, and like figuring out who, what, where, what we're going to go do. But that's where AI, which is this next phase, it's like productivity is table stakes. Let's do it. Now we're going to go drive, you know, real conversion differences. And that's kind of where, you know, folks like you guys come into play and, you know, change the game. And but that's sort of phase 2, and I think it's okay. I know everyone that's doing sort of the real-time AE enablement, obviously you got money, you want to go do it, but like I do feel like, look, what's the market's the market, and like stage 1 for them is really about learning how to talk to the machines. And people are doing that and they're seeing real benefits. So it's like productivity and now lift. And like, so that's where, you know, we're going to see a lot different. I think the numbers hopefully will be different. I mean, you got to remember, like, for all the go-to-market AI, like Marketo sort of came out and it was like, you had lots more emails and that was great. But like, it took people using that machine and talking to the machines and doing it, and Marketo figuring out that like our best clients spend a lot of time on content and messaging. Those things have to come together and then the things sort of take off. I think, you know, on some of the you know, areas where we're going to see real lift, that's coming now as we sort of figure it out as a market. But we the numbers I just gave, those are encouraging. Like that's a lot of people sort of talking to the machines and helping themselves be more productive. And now, now we got to go drive more lift. So that didn't, I know we wanted sort of sexy tools and those things, but I think we're on track. People don't agree. I'm like, maybe I'm old and more patient, but like, I think, you know, we've done real good things. I mean, let me give you this one. Can you imagine being a product marketer? Like, that was the work. Those poor folks, they're like the smartest people in the go-to-market org. And their remit was like ridiculous. And they had to create, they had to, you know, they had to know the market. They had to do the market research. They had to create the content. They had to position the product. And it was like, when we did like you know, that October surveying we did before, it was like product marketers just ran to AI. And it was like, I mean, you guys work with product marketers, I bet, what, all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, they ran to it, and you could see that in the numbers. And you know, for folks selling, it's like product marketing is sort of went to their productivity gains immediately. And now, you know, in terms of, you know, driving real lift and doing stuff, like they could be the key to the kingdom because they definitely know how to talk to the machines. They had to, because they were the most understaffed, misunderstood, poorly treated folks in the org. And it's like, it's crazy now. So the areas where we need to see lift, like I said, conversion, so demand gen. So we just talked about SDRs, but there's a big pipeline problem in the business. That's where we're gonna see big lift. The win rates, like I said, they're lower. So now we're gonna have to turn to a combination of skill development, you know, better AE. The AEs have to get better in this world. And when we figure that out, and then we will enable them with AI driven tools, then, you know, that's kind of where we'll see the big lift. So That's my rant, and I'm sticking to it.
Craig, thank you so much. What I'm gonna say, it's been, what's is it, 16 years or so, give or take, that you've just been inspiring me and inspiring and educating everyone out there in B2B tech. And so we really appreciate it. Thank you for your insights today. If folks wanted to get in contact with you, follow some of your insights, maybe get access to some of these reports that Scale Venture Partners is going to be offering here, what are the best websites, URLs, or channels to reach you?
Okay, so if you go to the Scale VP website, they're in perspectives. In the perspectives tab, we have a bunch of content. We have any tool that my team creates to help people with their go-to-market goes into the go-to-market advisory section. And then our team is doing a ton of work across the board on AI, and that's in the insight section. So you can get content there. FYI, I'm doing a November 6th in New York go-to-market AI summit. It's going to be at the Brand Foundation. It's going to be dope. I got Scott Brinker. You guys saw what happened with him. He's on his own now. So I'm releasing that dude back in the wild there. And we're going to have, a combination of folks who data that understand the market and people that are really doing stuff, and that'll be killed. That'll be number 2. Then number 3 is you got to follow my podcast, The Transaction. So you can do it. Like, I've been spending a lot of time trying to get people to follow our LinkedIn page. So maybe you go there and follow us, but we share a ton of videos. But obviously we're on every podcast platform. So do all 3 things. Maybe number 3 you do first because it's easy, and then if you're ready to take in some content, you go to number 1, and then if you want to get invited to my summit in New York, you can find, hit me on LinkedIn and we can see what we could do there.
And we got to get a Craig Rosenberg GPT, just like download all your knowledge and just have real time,
Yeah. Can you imagine the shit that the AI would pull out of my head and share with people? We'd have to have someone managing that.
I would be like, Craig, what's Riz? My son just, mentioned this word. And
my youngest son was like, I'm 53 years old. Like, I'm old. And like, he was floored. It was cool. It made me really happy. My older sons are like, Dad, you're old, and you lose weight. My younger one was like, Dad, you don't look that old. And I'm like, it could be that I'm using words like Riz, but
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and wearing essentials hoodies and that kind of stuff. But
there you go.
Anyway, I appreciate it, guys. I love, I'll just say that as you guys try to conquer the world here, I always like talking to you guys, young, earnest guys, making it happen for the world to go to market, sales and marketing. And it's coming. Everyone's sort of figuring this stuff out. So I think people are going to see a lot of you guys. So congratulations. And of course you're good at media. I mean, like, it's amazing.
I just followed George's lead.
Oh, George, man, that dude's been on the working the media wheels of steel forever, man. He's just down in Miami in the middle of a storm, just driving, views and likes. I mean, this dude is the man. So thanks for having me on, fellas.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Have a wonderful day. And thank you so much to everyone out there who tuned in. Go ahead and click on the follow button here on LinkedIn if you like the content. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, and definitely check out our products. Go to assetmule.ai. You can check out the latest and greatest products, always free, and have a wonderful day.